14 things I learned from Mike Mentzer from doing his heavy duty 2 in ideal routine for the last 3 months. Number 1 set is all you need. Now, I was very skeptical when I first went into it. I thought I was going to get smaller and shrink, but from what you can see from the other video, I got bigger, I got stronger, I grew muscle, and I felt better. I was in the gym for a fraction of the time, for about an hour a week instead of 10 hours. It was amazing. I just felt so fresh every time I went in, and I enjoyed it. So 1 set is something I'm going to take forward for the rest of my workouts. Yes, I might go into 2 for maybe biceps or lateral raises, just because I feel like those, along with your abs, they just recover really quickly. And calves, I think they need extra set, the extra volume. So I might do 2 sets for those, but 1 set definitely for all compound exercises: squats, bench press, pull-ups, pull downs, dips, you name it. So number 2, overcompensation. Now, before reading Mike Mentzer's book, Heavy Duty 2, Body and Mind, I'd never heard of that term. I knew recovery was key. Everyone talks about you've got to recover so you can grow and get stronger and get bigger, but no one ever bothered spending time to explain it and articulate it in such a well thought out way that's so logical. That overcompensation. So when you work out, if you don't already know, if you're not already read it, when you exercise, you are decompensating. You are stressing your muscle, wearing it down, breaking down the muscle, and then your body has to compensate to grow and get back to its baseline. But then you don't just want to get back to your baseline, you want to get stronger and grow. So you want to overcompensate by growing muscle, allowing more time to rest to grow muscle and get stronger. So Mike Mentzer would say in his book, if you felt sore, so you work out, let's say you work out on Monday, on Tuesday you feel sore, well, you're not going to work out. But on Wednesday, you feel better. Now you think, oh, I should work out because I feel better. But no, you need to overcompensate. So it would be a mistake to work out that day. So you're going to rest another day. So you rest another day, and then so Monday, Tuesday, Wednesday, Thursday, you're thinking, yes, I can work out. You've had 2 full days rest, you can work out. Now in his heavy duty 2, he recommends the first time using the program, you rest for 3 full days. But obviously a lot of people drop down to 2 after doing it once way through. Now, if you felt like you were still sore or struggling to recover and get stronger, or you're stagnating, he recommends add in another rest day. You keep adding. Now, if the numbers go back up, great, you've rested long enough. But if they go back down, then obviously you rested too long and you started to detrain. Number 3, fortnightly workouts. Now, fortnightly workouts. I always try to cram all my workouts, and most ones you find online, they go week by week. And you just repeat the same exercises on the same day every week. But with Heavy Duty 2, Mike Mentzer's way, you train 4 sessions over 2 weeks. So you're not repeating yourself until the 3rd week, and you repeat the first session. And I thought that my deadlifts and my squats would plummet. I thought they would drop, I thought I'd struggle. But they just went up and up and up, stronger, stronger, stronger. My thighs grew by 1 inch in 3 months, which was amazing. Just from training legs once a week, like quads, and only training deadlifts once a fortnight. Dips as well, close grip pull downs and dips were once a fortnight as well. And they all improved. So you don't have to train the same exercise multiple times per week to get better at it, or even every week by that matter. 4, the growth mechanism. Now the growth mechanism is another term that I've never heard before until reading Mike Mentzer's book. Now I've heard people say that you've got to log your book and you've always got to try and beat yourself, and you've got to increase either your reps or your weight on the bar. And I've heard that many times before. They never really delve too much into the reasons why, but Mike Mentzer's book, it comes under the growth mechanism. If you can trigger the growth mechanism, you will grow, and you only need to trigger it once with 1 set. And Dorian Yates, he tells a Mike Mentzer story that he heard about the growth mechanism, and that it's like a stick of dynamite. You can hit that stick of dynamite with a little hammer as many times as you like, but it's not going to grow. You need a big sledgehammer, bang, 1 big wallop, boom, and the stick of dynamite explodes. improve your strength through weight or reps close to the failure than you've done before, or exceeding it by doing pause reps or rest pause reps, then you've triggered the growth mechanism. And if you do any extra volume on top of that, it's just junk, it's not needed. It just delays your recovery. You've already told your body, I need to grow and get stronger. You don't need to do any more. It's done. Just rest and come back. And it works. The one set works. I got bigger, I got stronger. It works. Number 5, the ideal routine. Mike Mentzer, he tried to find the best routine for himself when he trained for Mr. Olympia. And it looked very different to how the routine is that I was doing in Heavy Duty 2. As Heavy Duty 2 and his original stuff is very different. And when he used to say that when he grew up, he was following a workout program that he got with his first weight set that his dad got him for Christmas. He was saying that it came with a program, 3 sets of 10 reps, and you hit every body part once per session. And it'd be more of a whole body. And it worked really well for him throughout his teenage years when he was doing sports at college. And then when he went into bodybuilding, it changed. He was doing more and more volume, more and more sets, more and more reps. And I think he was struggling when he was comparing himself to in competitions back then. And then he got to meet Arthur Jones, and Mike Mentzer started getting into this high intensity training, started dialing back. When he stopped bodybuilding, after controversy in 1980 with Arnold Schwarzenegger, and he just lost all interest, didn't want to pander to the crooks who were pretty much hand-picked judges by Arnold, supposedly. So you can make your own mind up on that. Then he decided, there was a bit of turmoil, and then he came back and got into a bit of training and brought out Heavy Duty 1. And that was his ideal routine for Heavy Duty 1. It would be push-pull legs, and it would be done with 2 days rest in between. And then what he realized then with that is that a lot of his clients weren't recovering. There's too much overlap with muscles. On this push day, there'd be so much heavy stuff done on the shoulders and arms multiple times in that session that it was junk volume and just wasn't benefiting his clients. And because he had real life clients, it wasn't just training himself when he was on steroids. He had real clients, natural lifters and steroid users alike. And he could see what was working. And he realized he had to change the ideal routine. It wasn't ideal for the masses. So he switched to an upper lower body split over 4 days over 2 weeks. And there was less overlap. There was 3 days rest in between. Sometimes he recommend less or more, depends on how you responded and how you did. And sometimes he did recommend 1 or 2. He was always 1 set, and he would try to get you to work at 1 set. But if you tried everything and it just wasn't working, sometimes he would say that you could go up to 2 sets on certain exercises. And I like the idea of the ideal routine, but how he's tried to create a routine that uses the least amount of exercises for the least amount of sets, for the least amount of reps, to get you as big and strong as possible. So the whole idea of the ideal routine is to limit the amount you have to do to get big and strong, which makes it ideal. Try and make it as minimalistic as possible to get the maximum amount of gains from the least amount of input. Number 6, it's not ideal for beginners. I've tried it with actual proper beginners, my clients, and they were interested, they wanted to try it. They just cannot train to failure. And I've known this for many years of training clients and hundreds of clients, is they don't want to train to failure. It's so hard, it burns so much. They're not confident, they don't feel comfortable doing it. And of course, you're not gonna push someone who's not comfortable, who doesn't feel safe, who doesn't feel secure. And you want them to enjoy the workout. Always, they're just gonna be put off if they feel so sore for the days coming on end and they struggle to lift up their cup of tea. For anyone that's been training for a while, they might enjoy that, but for someone who's brand new and a beginner, they won't, they don't. I know that, they don't come back, that's it, they're done. So beginners, it's so much easier to get them involved and interested in weight training by doing higher volume at lower intensity. And then as they progress as beginners, they get stronger, more confident, they enjoy it, they grow a tolerance to the burning sensation and the DOMs, and they kind of feel like they enjoy it, and it's kind of like a reward to feel like you've worked out. And then once they get there, then you can start introducing the HIIT training, the high intensity, the low volume, and you can push them to the absolute max, and they will reap the benefits that way, and you cut down the volume. And to be honest, with most of my intermediates, I cut down the volume a lot and I rack up the intensity anyway. And I have been doing that before discovering Mike Mentzer stuff. And now I can minimalize it even more, knowing that it works. The most important thing for beginners is that they enjoy it and that they stick to it, because that is what's going to keep them fit and healthy. Number 7, it saves time. I cannot tell you how happy I am that I can just work out for an hour a week and get strong and more muscular. I was struggling before. 5 days a week, not weekends, 'cause that's family time with the kids, but 5 times a week I was working out in the garage for an hour. Sometimes it was going over an hour, especially when you start racking up the volume and the intensity and you're struggling to recover between sets. It does chew up a lot of your time throughout the week. I was getting stressed because I'm trying to run a business and trying to be there for my family and spend quality time with them, and then manage my recovery, and I got work. It's just a bloody nightmare. It's so stressful for someone that's that busy. Yeah, if you've got all the time in the world, knock yourself out, do whatever you want, spend 3-4 hours in the gym every night, every evening, as it's probably be more of a social thing than anything else. Great, good for you. But for me, it was not suitable, and anyone else that has a busy life, the time you save is invaluable. Absolutely mind blown. Best thing about it. But if I had to put them into a tier list, number 1, saves time. That is my number 1, my favorite thing. It just brings a smile to my face. And it works. I got stronger. I built muscle. You can see that in the videos. I could go on and on about it, but I'm not. Number 8, no more tendonitis, no more shoulder impingement. I feel better. I feel fresh for the first time. I was doing the high volume stuff, was literally just burning me out. I was getting pain anytime I was doing bicep curls. I was getting sore anytime I was doing bench press in my shoulder. I was getting cramp in my calves anytime I did legs. It was an absolute nightmare. And switching to high intensity, low volume, part of me was thinking, go into absolute failure, I'm gonna feel it. And to be fair, in the first week it was a bit of a shock, and I had such severe DOMs. No tendonitis issues, feel a little bit in my shoulder from what I was doing previously when I was doing the higher volume, but I was still feeling it in my shoulder, but nowhere near as bad. Not like I was aggravating it every time by pushing through pain, but I knew it was there still, and I knew it was in my elbow still. But as the weeks progressed doing heavy duty 2, the tendonitis disappeared in my elbow. The shoulder impingement pain from the bench press just disappeared, gone completely. I stopped getting cramps in the middle of the night, like a couple of times. I was getting like 2 or 3 times per night, getting cramp, waking up. And it was just a bloody nightmare. And it just gone. I just feel fresh. Having those 3 days in between workouts makes a huge difference to your recovery. I was allowing myself to overcompensate and get stronger and get more muscular. And what I've experienced, the high intensity hasn't aggravated any of my muscles or my shoulders or my joints, but the high volume stuff did, and it did it all the time. Number 9, real experience trumps scientific research. Now, this can get extremely complicated. I don't really want to go too in depth for it because it could be its own video, but a lot of scientific research that comes out, it's either cherry picked and funded by people who want to fit their own agenda for whatever reason. They want to prove that high volume is better, or it's completely flawed because they say that their subjects of the case study were working to failure for 10 sets, but we know no one can work to failure on every set for 10 sets. It doesn't work, it doesn't happen. And when you've seen people say that they do, when you've watched them train, you know they haven't gone to failure. You know that they've kept like 2 or 3 or 4, even 5 reps in the tank. When I see members in the gym training to failure, I was like, you could have done 5 more reps. You could have done 10 more reps. I'll go back and do it again and then do another 10 reps. I'm like, you did another 10 reps with 20 seconds rest. That you did not go to failure. And it's heavily flawed. All that was proven was that high volume at low intensity was working, which is to be expected because you're working, you're doing a lot of work. It's expected. But then also they don't take into account the fact that you've developed inflammation to the area. And they say, oh, they've grown muscle. But it's really what they've done is that they've damaged their muscles so badly by doing the extremely high amounts of volume that they've just caused so much damage and inflammation. And it's just swollen arm. Real life experience trumps it, because with Mike Mentzer, he actually was a personal trainer. He didn't go off and do movies afterwards. He went and trained people in the gym. He helped people win bodybuilding competitions, Dorian Yates or John Hart. And with that, he was able to tailor his program to suit people, because if you've got a method of training and it doesn't work, people stop coming back. But because his methods were working, they kept coming back and they kept doing well. And he was really busy. He released 2 books, he released a 3rd book posthumously after he died in 2001. And Dorian Yates went off and changed his routine, which was more high volume, and he went to high intensity with lower volume. And it was higher volume than what is in Mike's book, but Mike's book was more for people with naturals in mind. But for Dorian Yates, who was very high on the steroids, he could do the higher volume, but he still only trained for 1 top set to trigger the growth mechanism. And he went to failure on that, high intensity. So really, you've got to find what works for you. So don't just follow any guru online, whether it's Mike Mentzer or Arnold or any science-based, evidence-based lifters. Try it for yourself, because real experience of you in the gym and what you respond to, that's really what matters. If you're doing the high volume and it's making your muscles sore and you're not enjoying it, switch to high intensity, lower volume. If you don't like high intensity, low volume because it's not working, then increase the volume. Find what works for you. Real life experience trumps scientific evidence every time. Number 10, there is wriggle room. There is wriggle room. Number 10, there is wriggle room. Mike Mentzer says when you first get the ideal routine and you first do it, you've got to do it to the letter as close as you can to what's prescribed. And that is so that you can say that you've clearly given it your best shot and you know what works. But saying that, he does go into depth later on about things that you can change. You can switch out certain exercises. Go from the flies to the incline bench and just do a flat bench. It's absolutely fine. Or dumbbells, if you want to use dumbbells, if you prefer dumbbells because it feels better on your shoulder, you can do that. He does say that if you need to do forearms, you can add forearms in to target forearms. Doesn't say, I don't think it says it specifically in the book, but John Hart, who worked closely with Mike Mentzer, especially working with Mike Mentzer clients through the website, the original website, he used to prescribe, he used to say, do curls on one of the leg extension days instead of leg extensions. So one day you do leg extensions and leg press, and on the other day you do leg curls and then you do squats. So it would kind of balance it out a little bit. You can not do the supersets if you don't want to as well. So there is a lot of wiggle room. You can change the rest days, you can do it with more frequency, so you have 1 or 2 rest days instead of 3. You can have 4 rest days if you need. And so there is a lot of wiggle room. And then he says, even if you're not getting results, you are actually training to failure and you're training hard and you're giving it your all, then you can go to the consolidation routine, where it's a lot more dialed down. There's less exercises, there's less overlaps, and you're doing, and you'll have more rest days in between. It could be like 5, 6, 7, 8, 9 rest days in between workouts. And on the consolidation routine, I think it's squats, followed by dips and close grip pull downs. And then on the other day, it's deadlifts, overhead pressing, and calf raises. Plus also, he has lots of different techniques for advanced techniques, where he talks about pause reps, rest pause reps, talks a bit about tempo and isometrics, eccentric failure, negatives, force negatives, and all those things that you can try. But it does say that if those exercises can deteriorate you a lot quicker and prevent and delay your recovery, so you might not use them. You might use them sparingly. And he does say if you do overdo it on the deadlifts, you can switch them out for shrugs. So it's not set in stone, and if it doesn't work for you, you can change it and tweak it a little bit. Number 11, 2 sets is okay. Now, my explanation for 2 sets is okay is that the fact that you're not actually just doing 1 set. You are doing warm-up sets. You're doing 50% of max weight capacity, 75% of max weight capacity. The reps won't be going anywhere near close to failure because you don't want to tire yourself out. So you're limiting yourself to 5 to 10 reps for your warm-up sets. Then you do your top set. And on your top set, you are trying to go to complete and utter failure. So those are 3 sets, but 1 top set. And then he does say that you can do some advanced techniques, whether it's force negatives, rest, pause reps, pause reps. So you could argue resting for 20 seconds, going back again, is another set, but it's more of a back off advanced set. So there are greater sets there. And when he does his pre-exhaust sets for the chest, it's the flies followed by the incline press. You could argue that that is 2 sets because they're 2 different exercises, and you've gone from 1 set of flies to 1 set of incline press for the same muscle for the chest. And same for the lat pull downs, so the straight arm lat pull downs and the close grip underhand grip pull downs. And that you could say that that's 2 sets, and the leg extensions followed by the leg press and the leg extensions followed by the squats are 2 sets. So the way that I see it is that the idea of 1 set is that it triggers the growth mechanism. And if you struggle to trigger the growth mechanism in 1 set because you cannot do it, you don't have the tolerance for working to failure, or you cannot handle the weight to get enough reps in to trigger the growth mechanism. So if you up the weight, but you can only get 2, 3, 4 reps and you don't feel like you've really got anything from it to trigger the growth mechanism, and you respond better to doing 6 to 10 reps on the exercise, then you could do 1 preset. So yeah, you do your warm up 50%, 75%, but then you could do another preset close to the 90 to 95%. And that's just going to wear you out so that you find it easier to go to failure on your top set. And that will trigger the growth mechanism. So for things like lateral raises, I think that could be very beneficial, that you do 1 set close to failure, maybe leave 1 rep in the tank, then you rest for 1 to 2 minutes, and then you go in for 1 top set as close to failure as possible. And that could resemble quite close to an advanced bodybuilding technique where you're doing your rest pause or pause rep, because you are in fact pre-exhausting your exercise, your muscle, by doing the straight set, and then the growth mechanism is triggered by doing the rest pause or pause rep sets. So it's food for thought. There's a little bit of experimentation there. You can do a little bit of experimenting and see what works for you, but I don't see any reason why you shouldn't be able to do 2 sets and get benefits from that. If you find that it doesn't help with your recovery, or you're not getting stronger or growing in muscle, then go back to 1 set. You're not going to waste that much time. What, a week, 2 weeks? But you've learned something. You got a valuable lesson from that. Number 12, inflammation versus real muscle. Now, there's a lot of evidence-based scientific research. When they look into case studies, people involved in the studies, they measure, see how much muscle they've gained, and they don't take into account necessarily the inflammation and the damage that it's caused, and they claim that they've increased in muscle size, where really what they've done is that they caused so much damage that they got inflammation. And you see that when bodybuilders go to the gym and they won't take off their jumpers until they've got a pump on, because they want to get a little bit of blood flow to the area, get a little bit of inflammation started up in the muscles, and so that they swell up and look a bit bigger, and then they take their jumpers off. And so there might be a little bit of grey area in the studies there, because they don't really film it, and a lot of times they don't use either, whether it's a DEXA scan or what have you. A cheap way of telling, a free way of being able to tell whether you grow muscle, is by how strong you're getting. So if you can grow in strength, your muscle should improve and grow as well. And that is correlated really well in a lot of studies, and with a lot of personal trainers' experiences with clients, and a lot of people training experience with that for themselves, is that as they get stronger, if they increase the weight, the load on the bar, the intensity and the stress and the reps, then the muscle increases as well. I didn't gain size, but I lost inflammation and gained muscle to maintain the size in my measurements. Muscle is harder to lose, but you can. That's why I always found that when I did these high volume training for 3 months at a time, and I wasn't always able to continue for 3 months because I'd always be burnt out and I'll get so much pain in my arms that I'd just have to stop. So normally I would only be able to maintain it for 2 months, and feel good because I felt big and strong and I was swollen up and my muscles look big, and I get compliments, people saying things to me. But then after a month, it's gone. The inflammation goes down and I feel smaller because it wasn't real muscle. Real muscle stays longer. 13, it works. What else can be said? The results are clear. I tracked my progress and my numbers were going up in strength, the reps were going up, the control of the reps was improving as well, and the intensity was there. With the measurements afterwards, everything got bigger, apart from my arms and apart from calves. But apart from my forearms, my arms and my calves, which I do believe a lot of that was inflammation and not real muscle, growing back up to the same size but with real muscle, it's very encouraging. But growing in my shoulders and my chest and my back and my leg and my thighs, I was very impressed with. It shows that it works. And the before and after shots, I'm happy with the appearance. I feel good, I feel strong, I feel fresh. I fill up my t-shirts well enough, considering the fact I'm 6'2", I weigh 104 kilograms, and I'm wearing a extra large Gymshark shirt. And I think it fills out quite well. On top of that, I just feel better. I feel fresh. I save time during the workouts. I spend more time at home with the family. I'm not always working, or if I'm not working, I'm not always working out because I'm trying to cram so much in from lack of time. It's refreshing. Not only is it work for general just building up strength and growing muscle, but it's also worked in that I feel better. My enjoyment for training is better. My stress levels have come down because of it. And overall, I've taken a lot from it, and I will take on board a lot of things that I've learned. Number 14, will I continue with heavy duty? Will I continue with Mike Mentzer's methods? Will I continue with Mike Mentzer's ideal routine from heavy duty to body and mind? Yes, it worked. I enjoyed it. It was great. I would like to come back to it. I won't be doing it back to back to back to back. I'll be switching between a bodybuilding program to powerlifting, and then I'll go back to bodybuilding. I won't necessarily do the exact same style, ideal routine, but I'll follow the same principles, maybe the same setup, upper lower. I think works really well with recovery. I will switch out some of the exercises from what I did last time. So I will include free weight barbell squats as opposed to Smith squats. I will switch out leg pressing on the vertical Smith to Hatfield squats because I think that it would probably help me more with my powerlifting. And I will include flat bench instead of incline Smith, and I won't superset. I don't want superset. I didn't really enjoy the supersetting, and I feel like if you're doing the underhand close grip pull downs, yes, if you superset your lats first and the biceps will burn out really quickly, but I feel like you can also get some great bicep development by allowing your back to help your biceps push through more, to go closer to failure as well, and to go heavier. So there's lots of different things that I want to experiment with. And saying that, I might even go to the consolidation routine where I'm just doing the squats with the dips and the pull downs. And then on the other day, I do my deadlifts, overhead press and calf raises, leaving 5 to 6 days in between, and to see how that works. The bottom line is that I'm going to be taking it on board a lot of what I've learned today from those 14 different things and more. There's so much that I've taken on board, so much has changed, so much has opened up my eyes, and my brain is just the relief from saving time and the enjoyment factor of my recovery, feeling fresh, the fact I don't have tendonitis or shoulder impingement pain, or I'm not getting cramp in the middle of the nights anymore, disrupting my sleep. There's so many positives to take. I'm only training an hour a week instead of 10 hours. It doesn't affect my home life as much. I don't feel stressed about working out as much, but I'm also growing and getting stronger. I just feel that a lot of people could benefit from this. That's why I'm talking about it. And if you feel like this is something that you're interested in, but you want a little bit of help and guidance to help you get there, or to iron out a few details to fill you a bit more confidence about switching to a high intensity program, get in touch. Let me know. I can help you program your program sessions. I can help you with a Mike Mentzer style program, or even just helping you understand the ideal routine so you can do it to the letter. That's something that I can do as well. So drop a comment, let me know how you felt about those. If there's any other points from your experience of working with Mike Mentzer's ideal routine that you found that were so beneficial to you, and just drop the comments in below. and let everyone else know. Thank you.